All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on YouTube, here on Facebook Live. We got Chris, we've got Zappy back. Baltimore Orioles and Texas Rangers fans, I'm really happy that we were able to get an intense baseball conversation on the eve of opening day. So Chris, welcome to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Always welcome. You and Zappy hash this. I'm going to go stretch it out for a minute, and I will be right back. Zappy, you know how to move here. Do your thing, guys.
So the other argument or other defense I would have for the Rangers last year, one of the things that goes unnoticed, we had 70 wins. You guys had, 101? I'm sorry, 90 wins, and you guys had 101. You also have to remember what the Rangers last year were tied with the Rockies for the worst save percentage in baseball. We blew 33 saves last year. So let's just assume.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, let's go with the assumption that we only blew 17 saves. That's 16 more wins right there for Texas, and they have 106 wins. So that's the other part that people are. Texas is a good team. They're not a team that just came. They're a team that's been growing to get here. They have a great mix of youth and veterans as well. I love your Baltimore Orioles team, man. I really do. I was high on them last year, and I'm higher on them this year. I really am. I think this team is going to be here for a while, to be honest with you. I like the way they built. They built just the way the Astros did, the way the Braves did. You know, you take your time, you let your players grow, and now, you know, Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson came out early. Jackson Holiday, I think, will be out probably by June. You know, I think he will be right there ready. I love what this Orioles team has. I really love their future. I really do.
Yes. Well, let me just touch on what you just said. So I was actually looking at that the other day. They was doing interview with Mike Elias, and he's the GM for Baltimore. What he said was one of the reasons why they didn't promote Jackson to the starting opening day roster was because they felt like he didn't get enough major league. He didn't face enough major league pitching. Meaning, a lot of those guys that he faced in spring training, they were major league pitchers, but they're not what he's going to see every day in the major leagues. Like when we play Texas, he's not going to see like a no name. He's going to see somebody that's going to be basically with the Rangers pitching. Your first three pitchers could be number ones anywhere, so he's going to see them, and that may not translate right away to him and to his production by bringing him up too soon. So they think maybe early May, early July, somewhere by the All-Star break, he should be up here.
That's good too, and I figured that was one of the things, because like you said, Jackson Holiday is going to continue to face a lot of these pitchers that he faced during spring training.
Right.
And everyone also needs to remember, he is only 1 year removed from high school. I mean, this guy was drafted straight out of high school, 18 years old. He's 19 now. So to expect it to be, because he was right there, the number one pick in the draft, to be going straight out there. Yeah, he was number one, but, you know, drafted out of high school. Another example is Ethan Salas. He's a young catcher for the Padres. He plays over here in San Antonio right now, so I get to actually watch him. But the kid is about to be 18 years old. Is he ready for Major League Baseball? I mean, damn, every time I've seen him play over here for the Missions, the guy is hitting the ball and he's putting it into play every time. But he's still young. He hasn't faced enough Major League talent. Because one thing I know for sure is, yes, while these pitchers in spring training and the minors are good, a lot of these guys can't top 94 on their fastball. A lot of these guys can't throw the perfect curve. They can't hit the corners the way a great pitcher can do. So it's good for Jackson Holiday. I think in the long run, it's going to be a great thing. Even if he comes up in May and doesn't live up to it and they have to send him back down, it's nothing against him. It's just, you know, sometimes you're just a little too young. And look at how Anthony Volpe was for the Yankees last year. He had these high expectations. The kid barely hit over 200. You know, I mean, sometimes some players are not ready for the big leagues, and man, we're talking about a teenager still. You know, not even an adult.
Exactly. You don't want to bring them up too soon, because them bringing them up too soon could ultimately hurt them. And it reminded me of a guy that played for the Orioles. I literally just had him in my head, and I can't think of him now. Ryan, darn it, what was his name? I can't think his name, but he was a big guy. He was supposed to be the next Cal Ripken Jr. Back in the day. His first name is Ryan. I can't think of his last name, but he wore number 10, and he was drafted him out of high school, and they drafted him high. And he was supposed to have been like the next Cal Ripken. And they brought him up after only being drafted out of high school for 2 years. And he came up and he stunk it up. And they didn't send him to AAA, they sent him back to AA up in Bowie. And he did what he had to do down there. And then they brought him up again. And literally, like, his batting average was somewhere floating around like 157, and his on-base percentage was worse because he wasn't getting on. And so
was it Mountcastle?
No, this Ryan was supposed to be. This is Ryan from back in the day. I can't remember his name. I'm gonna try to get it for you. The point I'm making is that the guy had so much upside, but they rushed him. And at the time, the manager for the Orioles was the old pitching coach who, after Davey Johnson left from the Orioles, after they got rid of Davey Johnson in '97, after they lost to the Yankees in what was that? The NLCS? No. That wasn't the Yankees. That was Cleveland that year. They lost to an NLCS, and Cleveland played the Mariners for the World Series in '97. But it was the old pitching coach. He took over once the Orioles fired Davey Johnson, and they just brought him up too fast, and he just was not ready yet. And so you don't want the same thing to happen with Jackson Holiday. He is like a once in a lifetime player. And when you get those guys, you have to groom them. Everybody's not Ken Griffey Jr. Everybody's not Alex Rodriguez, where they can play at the major league level at 19 and hit, 29 home runs. Everybody's not like that. Sometimes you have to groom them. You have to let them marinate just a little bit,
And that's the same for any sport. I mean, I'll use the Kings, for example. They drafted Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox high, and it wasn't until last season where they really finally grew into themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been in the league for a few years.
Yeah, and quarterbacks in the NFL, do all of them succeed like C.J. Stroud their first season? No. C.J. Stroud, the last one that did anything like that was Dak Prescott in 2016, and before that was Ben Roethlisberger. Other than that, it's a rarity. Some guys can come into the NFL and jump in there. CeeDee Lamb's a perfect example. His first year, he barely topped 900. Meanwhile, Justin Jefferson was blowing up. And then he progressively got better. And now fast forward to after his third season, he was second in the league in receiving. So not everyone has that capability, but definitely not 18-year-olds in baseball. That's the one thing we got to remember, man.
Exactly.
Because, like I said, it's easy to hit a fastball 92 miles per hour, but it's not easy to hit it when it's 101 or 98 or 99.
Yeah.
Or hit that 12-6 slider. There's so many things to consider with that. So I'm happy that they're gonna grow him correctly, because I would really hate to see such a young talent that grew up, has baseball in his genes from his father playing. That Matt Holliday was a great player. Let's be real.
Yes, he was.
And the same could be said about Drew Jones and his father Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones was a great center fielder. I expect Drew Jones to be the same thing, and he's coming along very nicely in baseball.
Right.
So, what, in your honest opinion, man, you think that the Orioles have any MVPs on the team?
I think right now, and people who think he's old because he's been there for a while. But if I say that there's one person there that I know for sure that could be in the MVP race if he stays healthy, is Anthony Santander. If he stays healthy and puts up the numbers he's been putting up, but he puts them up all season long, he could be right there. Because before he got hurt last year, he was on pace for 52 home runs and 120 RBIs. But then he got hurt.
The other day with players, we had a little bit of a disagreement with a guy in our fantasy league that I was saying that a lot of dudes are going to be banging out 40 plus this year based on
yes.
And Santander was one of those dudes.
That's why I went and drafted him.
Yes, he beat me to him. He actually beat me to him because I didn't make any emotional picks. Like I wasn't looking for guys that are hitting 40 plus. I wanted bags. I wanted dudes that are hitting for average. I wanted stolen bags, a lot of runs scored. So my team has certain guys from teams that are like rivals, but I was like, yo, I'm going for it. I want to win this year. But, like anything else, health is so key. I did want to make a mention because I was in the back listening to it on the other TV, what you guys were talking about in reference to Jackson Holiday. I agree that it's the right approach that the Orioles are taking because you do not want to mess up that kid's confidence. Because I'll be honest, being a Yankee fan, Didi Gregorius did a nice job coming in as a veteran replacement for the legendary Derek Jeter. But one thing I must admit is, you look at Volpe, I think this year two is going to be good for him. But he was only the fourth Yankee, and you think about the illustrious history of the New York Yankees, fourth Yankee rookie to start on an opening day. That is absurd when you think about so many greats that have played for this organization over the years. So, it's a lot of pressure. And I think some of it was really getting to Volpe last year, but I think this is the year where Volpe becomes a more rounded player. That shortstop position for the New York Yankees, it's a glorious position, but it's not exactly envied in terms of the pressure. Right.
It seems like it's been a carousel lately.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think Volpe's gonna do enough to keep it, but I love what we did today with our trade with the Marlins, picking up a veteran bat. Dude hits for average. And we talk about how many at-bats and what the production looks like. I think it's more than just picking up a guy that we always have a way of having our way with the Marlins and trades. I personally think this is a dude that's going to take third base because DJ LeMahieu, as much as I admire him over the years, two-time batting champion, one in each league, this is a dude that's getting on his last ride, so to speak, in terms of the injuries. And, across on the other corner, Anthony Rizzo has that back. So, that's going to be health has
Wait
been
a minute. They got Rizzo?
Yeah, Rizzo's opposite of LeMahieu. He did come back.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
But opening day roster, LeMahieu's not going to be healthy to go. We already know that Garrett Cole's probably not going to be seen until after the All-Star game, if at all.
Right.
And we dealt a lot of pitchers in the Juan Soto deal. So I think the Yankees, are going to have to make a deadline deal if they're within striking distance. And a lot of teams are going to be in striking distance of the wild card because you include more to the dance. But the Yankees have to believe that they actually have a chance to do something in the postseason because I will say this, it's imperative to that organization that they want to keep Juan Soto because they're very pleased with the way that he and Judge are meshing off the field. That's a big part of everything too. But, it's kind of like a prove-it year for the organization to Soto, one and the same as it's to Soto to the organization because he's going to be commanding a huge payday. But that lefty swing and what he brings to the short porch and right, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Soto does with this team.
That's funny you say that, and we're talking about Baltimore. Soto is one of those players where if he doesn't have a great year and the Yankees decide not to keep him, he goes on, that he could go to Baltimore or Boston.
No, that's the other motivation why the Yankees want to keep him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's because now Baltimore has that team.
Trying to keep the Orioles from competing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, man. I honestly thought, now, Lord rest his soul, Peter Angelos, the old owner, he just passed away, but the Orioles actually made it official today that they're under new ownership. Yes, and so
unanimous vote. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so this dude, he in his press conference today, he said that he's settling for anything less than bringing the World Series back here. Now, granted, I know we joked a little while ago about the last time the Orioles won the World Series. When the Orioles won the World Series the last time, I literally was about to turn 5 years old, literally. So I kind of remember, but I don't remember. I'm gonna tell you what I do remember. I remember the Colts sneaking out of town that couple months later. So I do remember that, But all in all, I'm looking for the Orioles to do some great things. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, when I said the Rangers got him at the right time, I think what happened was, and when I say the right time, I mean the Orioles basically, I feel like they overachieved early because wasn't nobody expecting them to do what they did last year. We expected them to get better, but not to be that good.
It was the perfect storm too, because you had a Boston team that had no pitching staff. They could score runs with anybody, but they had no pitching staff. The Yankees were nursing a ton of injuries, and let's be real, last year's Yankee offense was pretty piss poor. And just below the Yankee standard, bottom line. And when Judge went down, because we had taken 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and looked like we were going to turn the corner. And when Judge hurt his foot, it was game, set, match for our season.
Absolutely. And, but I'm going to be honest with you, dude. When I hear people talk about how bad the Yankees look or how bad they might look, I don't listen to that because you know what? I take it back to football. They say the same thing about the Steelers every year. And the Steelers always find a damn way to be there. And I just be like, dude, this team went 8-8 and made the playoffs. But they always find a way to be there. And that's how I see the Yankees. I see the Yankees the same way.
Yeah, there's a grittiness in that locker room because one thing I will say is I'm happy that Judge got the captain hat because the truth is, it was well deserved, and the thing is, you get that player once in a generation, once every 20 or 25 years, for a certain organization and Judge definitely meets the criteria when you think about the names, the guys that have been captains of that organization, Munson, Mattingly, more recent times in my lifetime, or even a Willie Randolph for that matter. There's a certain character-based standpoint to be Yankee captain. And the thing about Aaron Judge, and especially with the Shohei stuff, which we covered on the first portion of the show, is that I do believe he's very much still in play to be the face of Major League Baseball. And it's going to be interesting. And I'm stoked. I wish I was off tomorrow, but I am stoked that we're starting the season against our most hated New Age rival, the Astros, because, the Astros weren't always our rival. I actually have a cousin through marriage who played for the Astros majority of his career, Cheo Cruz Sr. His son played with his son actually came up in the Mariner organization when it was a young Griffey and a young A-Rod. And Cheo did finish his career with the Yankees. Statistically speaking, very similar career trajectory in terms of year to year, if you look at the back of the baseball card, to a guy like a Bernie Williams in terms of the offensive standpoint.
So I'm not a Yankee fan at all. I despise them. But I ran into an old friend of mine from, I'm going to say, maybe about 15 years ago. And I say old friend because whenever I would see him at school, I was working at the school. I was a few years ahead of him. And every time I see him, I just think of him in the pinstripes. Mark Teixeira. And every time I do work at Mount St. Joe's, I'm liable to see him there because he still comes back and get back to his old high school, whatever. But I remember when I found out that he was going to be a Yankee, there was a part of me that just kind of died inside because everybody thought for sure that Baltimore was going to get him. But that particular year when the Yankees drafted him, I think they were higher. I think they had a higher pick in the draft than the Orioles did that year, and I was really disgusted. And then the fact that Mike Messina went to New York, that just really just ate me up inside. So,
and it's funny. It's funny. Even with a guy like Cole didn't start his career with the Yankees. He was drafted by them, but they managed to let him get away. Teixeira played in other teams. Ultimately, was a Yankee for the 2009 run. And, after Teixeira left, it was a turnstile at first base until we got some credibility with the glove, which is currently Anthony Rizzo over the course of the last couple of years. But, from a fielding standpoint, Teixeira is actually a couple of decimals ahead of Mattingly. And what makes Teixeira an interesting case is that he was a switch hitter.
Yeah, he definitely was. Now let me ask you a question, both of you guys here. Can I touch on some football stuff real quick?
Absolutely, bro. Because we're gonna probably be shutting it down about the 30-minute mark. So yeah, these last 10 minutes, let's hear it. Let's get it.
Okay, okay, this is to my cowboy brother. So I gotta ask you, and I had this debate earlier with somebody. We was talking, and one of the things we talked about was the state of the Dallas Cowboys. As you know, and everybody else probably knows, the Cowboys didn't make any type of moves during early free agency. Do you think that was strategic, or do you just think we've got caught with our pants down again?
I'm going to tell you what Zappy thinks, and it's going to be interesting. Zappy, you get this one because we talked about this off air.
Yeah, I've actually talked about this. Leading up to it, I thought something felt funny. So I think there's a lot of strategy behind this. I have this little feeling inside of me that Jerry Jones is on the verge of selling the team. So
I thought about that.
And giving the new owner a clean slate, it makes a lot of sense. Now, in regards to Dak, my biggest question, and I've been a supporter of Dak, while I've also been someone that has supported him. And my biggest thing is, yes, if you want the stats, if you want the fun games during the regular season and all that, then he remains your quarterback. But if we're going to settle for the continuance of what Clint Stoner, Anthony Wright, Brad Johnson, Vinny T, I mean, the list goes on and on after Troy Aikman before we got Tony Romo. It's all the same result, in my honest opinion. Whether we won the division or we made it or we finished in last place, we were still the same as those other 31 teams, and that is sitting on the couch watching whoever won the Super Bowl that year. I do think it's very strategic. The fact that these new reports came out today that Dallas is still intending to extend Dak, it may very well happen, but it's not going to happen until the regular season. As far as money goes, we only have so much money. We could still make an acquisition. I think it's going to happen through a trade again. But what you see is what you get. And I think when the mention of we're all in, I think it's more along the lines of we're going to wait till after the draft. We're going to wait till the June 1st casualties, all that stuff, where they're going to go after veterans and say this was us all in. They're not going to change their draft strategy and trade their first round pick, knowing we need offensive line help, knowing we need linebacker help, knowing we need a running back, knowing we need a second cornerback, or at least a nickel cornerback. No, Deron Bland will go back to nickel. We need a second cornerback. So, there's a lot of things, but the biggest part of me thinks that Jerry may very well be preparing himself to sell this team.
Gentlemen, I have two names for you. If I'm running the Cowboys, two names that I want in the first two rounds. Just my unbiased opinion. And trying to be reasonable in that you might get two of these guys. Amarius Mims out of Georgia, I think would be a hell of a building block. Me personally, I love J.C. Latham, but the reality is I think Latham will be gone before you guys get on the board. Round two, while it might be considered a little early for a running back, the one that stands out above all else, in my honest opinion, Trey Benson out of the University of Florida State. You get those two dudes, you need a back like Benson in this offense, because the problem is Zeke got old. They moved on from him, a lot of miles. Now Pollard is playing elsewhere. Pollard had a promising backup. You need a committee, though.
Right.
That dude Benson is the real deal, and that is a guy that I believe can help you get back to playing a more balanced brand of Cowboy football. Because on the other side of the ball, although you guys did get cut up by Green Bay in that game, in my personal opinion, Dan Quinn didn't make enough. He didn't make enough adjustments. Bottom line, he didn't make enough adjustments. But you got the pieces on the defensive side of the ball, not to mention that you're getting Diggs back for the entirety of the season.
So I like Mims, but I don't like him for Dallas because he's a guy that's not going to be a day one starter. He's going to need time to grow. If I'm Dallas, I'm running to the podium if Austin Powers or Jackson Powers Johnson is there waiting for, because we need a center. The other guy, though, that I'm really interested in that I would really hope we picked if Jackson Powers is not there is Graham Barton. Reason why? The guy played center, guard, and tackle.
Yeah, he gives you that flexibility where you can put him anywhere.
Yeah.
And Dallas
rotate
needs
him.
that right now. They need someone like that because is Dallas going to move Tyler Smith out to the left tackle or are they going to keep him at left guard? Personally, I say keep him at left guard and you draft your center or you draft someone like Barton to come in and play left tackle because I would much rather have 2 all-pro guards protecting the center. In my honest
right.
opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta get busy on the line because the problem is that this could be one of those uncharacteristic seasons where Dak really takes a beating behind because it's been a minute since a Cowboys quarterback. You've got to go back to the Romo era where you can make a logical argument that Romo took those beatings. Some of them self-inflicted in the sense that he took too many chances. Because Romo doesn't get enough credit for the guts that he had. But God's honest truth, Romo was all about the initiating contact, and sometimes it didn't go his way. But Romo had a lot of heart. I got to give him that much. As a Giant fan, as a devout Giant fan, I'll give Tony Romo his roses in saying that he played in an era of Cowboy football where, sadly, he never had a defense until he was damn near broken.
Yeah, and honestly, while, yes, Dallas didn't do anything in the draft, Dallas has a good problem, and that is they are one of the best drafting teams. And now they're in that spot where, hey, you got to pay CD. You're going to have to pay Micah. Do you pay Dak? Yes, the biggest question is if Dak walks because someone is going to pay. Someone is going to give him $65 million next year if he goes into free agency. Someone will do it. Do I want him to stay? Absolutely. Am I ready to see him go? Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, Dak against the greater teams that have great coaching, he has not been able to get over that hump.
And I'll be honest, to be fair, I do believe that while Mike McCarthy is a good enough coach to win games in this league, he's consistently been a 10 or more games winner. Dude, back-to-back 12-win seasons is nothing to shake a stick at. But the thing is, I don't think he's the coach that's going to necessarily get you to the next level because going into this offseason, I was shocked that Sean McDermott and Mike McCarthy were both retained.
It is. And, and I think it's because if you're going to do a complete change, I mean, the number one guy that comes to my head for next year is not Belichick anymore. It's actually Deion Sanders. And, look who's going to be coming into the draft next year, Shedeur Sanders.
That's pretty wild when you think about it. He made a very short list of teams where he would want his son to play. And the funny thing is they were predominantly the majority of the teams he had played for. He doesn't want his kid playing in the cold. He made that clear.
Yeah.
He said he wants a dome.
He wants a dome.
So it's, and I think that's a story that Jerry Jones will feed off of, especially after hearing that he was thinking about giving Jason Witten the head coaching job.
I mean, bro, I'm cracking up because you got people in our contingent in Giant Country that are like saying, "Oh, we don't need a quarterback yet, and next year's class is kind of crappy. Let's wait for Arch." I'm like, man, you guys got to get out of your feelings.
But I will say this. Second round, if there's a guy, like I said, first round is going to be O-lineman. Second round, it's either going to be 3 positions. It's going to be linebacker. It's going to be I don't even think it's going to be running back. I think it'll be O-line again. But if T'Vondre Sweat is sitting there, I mean, this guy is 6'3", 260,
yeah, that guy's
365.
That guy is a problem.
Dallas needs to get bigger in the trenches, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that's why I think it's going to be, we're going to be hitting O-line, D-line in the first 2 rounds, especially if Sweat is sitting there. He's a guy that finally, a true one technique that can come in and fill the gap, and you look at Mozzie Smith, the dude lost weight. You're supposed to, when you're going to be a one technique, you're supposed to be a heavy set kind of guy. You know?
When you're a one trick pony in that regard, you cannot afford to get more slender because you're going to get moved. You're going to get moved in a big, big way. I do want to hit on this since we're talking about some draft potential. I know that it's been a big debate amongst the New York Giant fan base as to what we should do with the 6th pick. Do we move up? Do we go back? Do we stay where we are? I'm going to say this. Wait and see if the Minnesota Vikings trade with the New England Patriots, because it seems almost like guaranteed that the Arizona Cardinals and Marvin Harrison love each other one and the same. Marvin Harrison Jr., that's the way that's going to play out. I do not trust that the Chargers are not going to try to make some kind of move with the Vikings for the sheer fact that they have so much to fix on offense. You lost Austin Eckler. You lost your 2 cornerstone receivers for the better part of the last 6-7 years.
Williams, Keenan Allen, yeah.
Not to mention that a Brock Bowers, even if the Chargers traded back, could be a decent addition.
After watching Malik Neighbors today in his pro day, him or Marvin Harrison is going to be drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers.
So let me ask you this, Zappy. In the event that the Patriots and the Vikings don't strike a deal, do you think it's safe to say that the Giants should be able to get the quarterback that they want at 6? Without having to move?
With the talks of J.J. McCarthy being heavily eyed by the Washington Commanders, and if that's who the Giants want, no, it's not safe to say that, because I think now we're looking at possibly picks 1, 2, 3, 4 being quarterback. Again, it comes down to Arizona. Will a team be able to convince them? Because Arizona is just like the Chargers. They need pieces.
Right.
But the Chargers, they need that piece. They need a Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is a very, very special guy. Those 2 stand out in this class because, Brian Thomas is good. Keon Coleman is good. Even later in the draft, Xavier Legette could be very good. But if I'm the Giants, and if it's not the guy they want, and it's the worst kept secret, they want J.J. McCarthy. If I'm the New York Giants, I'm getting the best player on the board, and that probably will be a wide receiver, and it might be Rome Odunze. But I'm going that route, and I'm figuring out quarterback later in this draft because I am not a firm believer that you just draft a position because you quote-unquote need it. If you give Daniel Jones enough weapons and you get a project quarterback that you could build up, it might not be the worst situation in the world. There seems to be this big pressure, not necessarily on the front office, but in the fan base, that we must get rid of him after this year no matter what. I want to see what happens first. I'm not saying that I haven't had my fair share of seeing Daniel Jones. Now, a person that was a top 3 to 4 quarterback going into before the injury, and that I do find intriguing for an option would be a Jordan Travis because of the sheer fact that his play style, when healthy, actually does work into Brian Dable's system. So that
you talk about quarterback, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Okay, because they gave Daniel Jones 4 years, $160 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he has about another 2 million. Another 2 years left on that, right? So if you're going to get a quarterback,
they have.
They have an out. Okay, because I was after this year they have an out.
Correct.
Yeah, he's got 3 years left on this contract, and then after this season, they can break away from him if they wanted to.
And I do believe that's the way it plays out. My thing is, with next year's quarterback class being rather weak, I do think the Giants are going to draft a quarterback. But I am not of the belief that when you have the second or third fewest picks in this draft, that you overreach and get a guy when this team still needs a wide receiver 1. This team needs a corner opposite of Tay Banks, and this team still needs one more linebacker to complete that defense.
So let me ask you a question. Is Nix coming out in this draft from Oregon?
Yeah. He's expected to be the 5th quarterback taken.
It seems like the Broncos have an interest in him.
So his thing was okay, so I thought the first 4 picks would be quarterbacks. I think Arizona would trade out because I don't think they're going to replace all that money they just put into Kyler Murray. but I do think that the first four quarterbacks.
I think we may have lost him. Not sure. It appears
you can't trade Daniel Jones for Kyler Murray because it would be huge cap hits for both teams. So there's no way that scenario can play out whatsoever.
And not to mention, I don't think it's a good idea because I could see Kyler Murray.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
I could see Kyler Murray in Central Park at a Call of Duty convention.
All right. What were you saying, Chris?
Right. No, what I was saying was, I was basically saying if the Giants wanted to, I don't think Knicks is going to go before it's time for them to pick. If they wanted to take him, I said, but if I were them, I would take either something on defense or offense first, and then come back and get a quarterback that you can train up behind Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Instead of doing,
they need a number one receiver. Or the other guy that puts up number one receiver numbers that the Giants could explore an option of is if they could find the right team to trade back with, maybe stay to like 10, because the New York Jets might be trading up, oddly enough, the team that we share a stadium with, and go get you Brock Bowers at maybe pick 10. I could live with that.
Yeah.
I could live with the, it seems like almost certain retirement. It hasn't been announced yet, but it does look like Darren Waller's going to hang it up. I would not be the least bit upset if they want that route, because the last time we went big on a tight end in the draft, it worked out rather well with Jeremy Shockey, who was an all-pro and hit the ground running.
Right. Yeah, Jeremy Shockey.
You know, Chris, I'll ask you this question. So with the way the approach has been this offseason with Dallas, with the news about Dak and Dallas having a mutual understanding with his contract and the possibility of him playing it out, we only have 7 draft picks. Is there any quarterback you would want Dallas to draft this year that if you could build, then grab him? I have one in mind, but I want to see what
I have 2 in mind. Honestly, the one I have is a dual threat. Before I say him, Nix is one of the ones I like him from. I like Nix from Oregon. I definitely like him. I like his play style. But then I also, and I'm not a fan of Tennessee, but I like Tennessee's quarterback too, from the Volunteers. I like him.
Yeah, that's my pick. Joe Milton, 100%. I'm not a fan of Bo Nix, actually. I'm not. To me, Bo Nix is a lot like Paxton Lynch.
We got a little bit of a cross convo on my end going. Joe Gal, he's having fun with me right now. This is an Eagles fan. All I'm going to say is this. You guys really got desperate with the amount of overpay to Saquon Barkley. He's going to give you one good year, but I never wish injury on anyone. All I'm going to say
hopefully he stay healthy.
Yeah, don't get used to seeing him finish too many seasons. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to say that in a polite way.
Hopefully he stays healthy. I will ask this question about Baltimore because I do cheer for my home team. I'm a Cowboy for life. I've been a Cowboy fan all my life, but I do cheer for my home team unless they play in the Cowboys. But I will ask this. We just watched the Ravens allow Jadeveon Clowney to sign with the Panthers. So that definitely had a lot to do with money and not winning. Okay. And then we also watched them, they traded Moses to the Jets. Is this a trend of them going younger now? Because
I think it's a trend that they're willing to pay certain defensive players, because while they traded what's his name to CJ Mosley to the Jets, we can't forget that they also traded for Roquan Smith and allowed Patrick Queen to walk,
which I thought was a good pickup. But I must admit, Zappy said this on a previous show. Patrick Queen to the Steelers actually is worse than Barkley to the Eagles, because I think the only reason why people were like wilding out about Barkley leaving is because of the whole I love the Giants and I want to be a Giant for life and all this other stuff. But with the intensity of that Ravens-Steeler rivalry pretty much since Baltimore has been the Ravens, since the Ravens, because the Ravens are a phenomenal organization when you consider that they've only been in the league since, I believe, 95 or 96? 95, I believe?
The end of 95 season, they became official, yeah.
That's correct. So because the Browns left and then the Browns, brought back their own team. But they have a great history for a short amount of time. I mean, two-time Super Bowl winners and a frequenter to the AFC title game, because in the Brady era and in the Roethlisberger era, you were always seeing the Ravens in the mix with those guys, constantly in the mix with those guys.
And honestly, when you look at the Ravens, losing Jadeveon Clowney is not a big loss. I mean, he tied his career high with 9.5 sacks, but he's someone that can easily be replaced. I mean, you look at David Ojabo, the guy who they were able to steal in the second round last year because he suffered that horrible Achilles injury at his combine. But this will be the year he breaks out of it. Like, to me, when I look at the Ravens losing Clowney, if it meant keeping Matabuki, that's more important.
They lost some big name guys in terms of notoriety, but outside of Queen, they didn't lose anything they couldn't replace, whether it be OBJ on offense or whether it be Clowney on the other side of the ball. Because the biggest acquisition that the Baltimore Ravens made that could finally get them to that next level, it gives them a puncher's chance now all the way through. You get Derrick Henry. This is a guy that could lean on teams and put teams away, because you might agree with this watching, I imagine, a decent amount of Raven games. Going back to 22 and even before that, if there's one critique I have on this team, it's not talent. They have a hell of a coach, but they have had issues putting teams away.
Yes.
They're also a big issue for them, too, is playing those tough division games, and they never had that ground and pound running back that will keep it close, because we know one thing we know for sure is Baltimore has been great since Lamar Jackson has arrived, but Mike Tomlin has had Lamar Jackson's number. Tomlin has only lost to him one time in his career.
And I do want to make a mention, because why not? Only one NFC quarterback has defeated Lamar Jackson, and that man is Daniel Jones.
You sounded like you want Zach Wilson on your team now.
He's having some fun with you now, Mr. Zappy. Hey, you know what the Ravens, Steelers, Giants, and Eagles all have in common? More Super Bowls this century than the Cowboys.
Okay.
Well, listen.
I could. If we're gonna pick on the Eagles, where do I start? I mean, I'll let him have his little fun.
I mean, they did beat Bill Belichick, but the thing is, it was 6 decades prior where they had their other championship, and that was actually against Vince Lombardi pre-merger.
What I love.
He's having fun with us tonight. Thanks for hanging with us, Joe.
But what I love the most is people that love to have fun with Cowboys fans and be calling the biggest chokes, when in all actuality it's the Niners. But people don't really follow football. They just know, oh, Cowboys, screw Cowboys. But Niners have been to 7 NFC title games in the last 12 years, been to the Super Bowl 3 times, and what do they have to show for it? At least the Eagles have.
Now, while I do agree with that, there still has to be a praise for constantly being there. Because if somebody
don't count. That don't count.
If somebody was to ask me,
you're sounding like Generation Z right now.
I'm sounding like myself. If somebody was to ask me, would I rather not advance past the second round since 1995, or would I rather constantly be in the mix for a Super Bowl? I'm going to go with the latter.
So that's basically. Can you hear me? That's basically like saying. Okay, you want to have a bachelor party, but you don't want no strippers. I mean, come on.
I mean, bro, you know as well as anyone that nobody blows up expectations more than your owner. I'm not defending the 49ers or the Cowboys because I hate them. No, your owner does a good job of that. I hate them one and the same. The Cowboys and the 49ers, based on history alone, any Super Bowl that we have ever gotten to require going through at least one of them.
So I will give you that because you are a Giants fan. So absolutely. I will give you that. So I will give you that. Well, you had Wilbur Marshall and all those guys, and yes, I do recall certain games. But what I will say to you,
took the 11 NFC East. That was a fun game. That was a fun game.
Listen. I'm not disagreeing with you, dude. But what I will tell you is this: I was watching something on television. You can look it up on YouTube. I believe it was Stephen A. Smith. They was ranking. He was upset because you know how he is about the Cowboys fans. Yes, he was upset because PFF did a thing for the worst fan bases in football up to this year. You had the Chiefs fans as number 1, 49ers fans as number 2, and I forgot the third team, but the Cowboys had dropped all the way back to number 4. And he said, I'm not having that. He said the Cowboys fans are the worst in football. I think it was the Eagles fans that had moved up ahead of the Cowboys fans.
We didn't do that great on that list either. And the metric that we didn't do good on, this is like something that me, Idris, friend of the show, Quentin, will say. Quentin has some Baltimore roots as well, is that we call them delusional, but we also call them the 7-Eleven babies.
That's the way it is, man. I mean, you already
know.
I'm all for it, man. Listen, I'm all for having fun, letting the fans do that. I mean, every year we say it's our year. You know what I'm saying? Somebody asked.
That's the goal, bro.
That's the goal.
I respect your owner for the sheer fact that in that regard, he kind of duped it off one of his life heroes, who was the former Yankee owner, George Steinbrenner. So I'm never going to hate Jerry for that. Because one thing I do like about Jerry, like, hate him, love him, whatever, I got no bad for Jerry, because to me it's like it almost becomes like a running meme, because listen, I love George Steinbrenner, but I knew that there came a time when you're just like, Jesus, enough is enough already, George.
Yeah, but you know what?
Things, they kind of share that same sentiment. But I said it to Zappy on a recent show. I said an NFL without Jerry Jones just wouldn't feel normal.
Well, listen, I love my Cowboys, but sometimes I wish we could trade Jerry Jones, because I feel like he's the issue.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
bro, I get it, because even if you look at the Steinbrenner reference, it took Steinbrenner getting banned from baseball for a few years for the Yankees to go in the next direction, which ultimately produced a dynasty, because I'm not taking nothing away from George. He has his place in history and well-deserved. But, like, he spent the big money on Reggie Jackson in the 70s. Right. That's what got them over. But there was 15, 16 long years in between. And if it was up to George, guys like Rivera, guys like Jeter, guys like Bernie would have all got traded out, because he was not a patient person.
Yeah, the thing that like really burns me up though, I have a few 49er fans that work with me, and they all know I'm probably one of the only Cowboy fans there, and they always tell me, the Cowboys ain't won a Super Bowl since 1995, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you guys haven't won since 1994. Like what? Like, come on.
Speaking of 94, we had William Barnum Floyd on the show. Really fun guy to talk football with. Former Seminole, and it was cool, because at the end of the day, like, it's been a minute for both of you, and I think the thing that would get you through any bar argument, sports debate, is the fact that the two of you combined, recent struggles or not, have 10 friggin' Lombardis combined. That's why, like, even me and Zappy, we'll form the team on Eagles fans when it gets a little intolerable. We'll be like, okay, that's cool, guys. But, like, I can't really get on the 49ers, even with the whole reference about what they'd have been falling short of, because at the end of the day, they still got 5. Like, the Eagles, on the other hand, they're coming up short, and if they're like choking it off against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I've been alive long enough to say that my Eagle memories in Super Bowls, outside of the Nick Foles game, is them losing. Or in NFC title games, it's them losing. I don't have those kind of memories of like, why were the Cowboys a big deal? Why were the 49ers a big deal? Why were the Giants a big deal? It's because they fucking won.
Welcome back, guys.
Yes. Yes.
So listen, I do want to say this. I do want to say this, I love you guys' content. I love watching you, even when I'm not commenting. Even when I'm not commenting, and I see you guys pop up that you're on, I come on, I watch. Sometimes I'm not commenting because I should be asleep. But I really enjoy the show. I thank y'all for letting me come on. Absolutely. And I definitely want to come back, man. I don't, I love talking sports, and like people don't understand. Like when I've had a long day at work, to me, you give me a beer and you give me a conversation about sports to unwind, and this is where I want to be. So I want to thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you.
No, absolutely. Pleasure having you. And it's good to get some new blood in here too, because it's cool how like you can offer like during especially with baseball around the corner, and with you and Zappy's team probably being the two biggest favorites in the American League, along with the Houston Astros. It's going to be a fun ride, and during the course of the year, you guys could be, talking baseball because it's baseball season. We are here now.
Well, let me ask you a question. When are you guys coming back online?
Announcements to come, because I'll be honest with you. One thing about us that we do here consistently is we just keep putting out content, because during the football season, it's more of a structure. Like, you're going to see me Monday morning on my quarterback show. You're going to see us usually Wednesdays during football season. We split our division previews into two different, our weekly preview into two different shows.
Very nice.
But when you got the NBA, the hockey, the any random fight coming on, there's not really a set schedule. It's you boys ready to talk, because we're still growing it. And honestly, I always say that the only way to is through, and we're just constantly trying to put out as much content as possible.
That's what it is. I want to say one thing real quick. It's in regards to that comment that the Eagles don't have that many Super Bowls. So, the Eagles have been to 4 Super Bowls. The Giants have been to 5. So, in my opinion, the Eagles do have that many Super Bowls.
Jaworski fail. McNabb, Chunky Soup fail. Jalen Hurts fail. Nick Foles.
He got it. He got it.
Yeah.
He got it for them.
And Joe Gal, I want to say this, pal. When we beat Tom Brady, he was still with the best woman he ever had. That's Bridget Moynihan. I don't know if she was still with him, but whatever. The point is that he was a lot younger.
And then,
we beat him when he was league MVP, and we beat him when he was in his 20s and his 30s, not when he was in his 40s.
And then the other thing, too, is it's not like the Eagles have been around since 95, 96. This team has been around since 33, 35, whatever, and only have 4 championships total if you include all league championships. So
thank you, Mr. Nast. I'm going to check that out as soon as the show's over. Appreciate you, buddy.
So to Mr. Joseph Gallagher, thank you for the love for Yvonne Rodriguez. Eagles, you got your Super Bowl in 17, but you have 1. The Bills have been to 4, lost them. The Vikings have been to 4, lost them all. So the Eagles are that close to being able to say
we are 80%. My guys are 80% in the bowl and undefeated in the NFC title game. Our only blemish is against arguably the greatest defense in the history of the league, that being the 2000 Ravens, of course, the 84 Niners, of course, the 70 Steelers. Pick your year in the 70s. They were nasty. We'll have a say in that, as well as the 85 Bears. But which Idris's cousin, Idris's family played on that team. Fellas, I really enjoyed this conversation tonight. You are always welcome to come back. And I was happy because when I saw you and Zappy getting amped about your baseball teams, and me kind of taking the reserved, relaxed role, because my Yankees, it could be a phenomenal season, or it could be what I've become used to, just kind of being in the middle where we're not as good as we should be. Either way, I'm incredibly happy that baseball's back, because I'm not one of the Yankee fans that guards out on 27 and gets all done with it. I experienced one dynasty in my life, which I'm incredibly proud of, and I got to see them beat a very good Phillies team that was trying to win 2 in a row. So the way I look at it is like, I'm still fortunate to say that in my lifetime, I've seen my Yankees win more than any other team. And I can live with
I'll tell you this. Listen, I'm with you on that. And I'm actually at opening day tomorrow. So if you guys are on tomorrow night, I'll jump on and give you my take on the Orioles and the Angels because that's who they playing in the Anaheim Angels, and I'll give you my take on that, and I'll let you know what I saw. I'll let you know how Mr. Cy Young looks in an Orioles uniform and how long he went and everything, and
well, we're gonna talk
take
a
it
lot
from
more.
there.
We're gonna talk a lot more in the near future. Hit me a messenger. I accepted your friend request too because
Yes, sir.
it's gonna be good to start structuring like our plans for baseball shows. And I always tell Zappy and Idris this as well. Sometimes if I'm not around, feel free to move along and do shows because I got my name on the show and this is my show and everything. But this show is also very much identified with that mug on window 3. As well as Idris, you know what I'm saying? So,
right.
Yeah, those are my guys. And just want to say big shouts, Joseph C. Gallagher, big shout, The Basement Show, Mr. Nash, John Nash. We had the pleasure of going on their show. Philly fans based in Jersey. Joe Gal's actually in the Midwest, but point to be made is, just really enjoying the love. Also want to give shout out Sneaky G. He has an awesome podcast, diehard Giant fan. In the Dallas,
Nice.
in the Fort Worth area, really enjoyed getting with him and his guy, Big Blue Ant. We had an awesome time the other night. I'm going to be paying them a visit in the near future as well. But, just want to say I appreciate all the support that we've been getting. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
I have to hit on one thing, something we didn't cover yet. But
go ahead. We got 4 minutes.
Rules changes, NFL. Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? Or do you like them all?
I don't like the tackle change. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't like the tackle change because I saw a meme. Can you imagine the Titans Rams Super Bowl ending on that?
You talking about the drop, the hip drop?
Hip drop tackle.
But I don't like that. I don't like the kickoff one.
I love that one.
You do?
I'm okay with it because I think it's going to be more excitement because I'm tired of seeing fair catches and things going out of the end zone. I want to see action.
Well, that's the reason why it brings the kickoff back, the kickoff return. Because look at the Super Bowl. There were 13 kickoffs, all went out of bounds.
Yeah, true. That's true.
And we talked about. There you go. You took the words out of my mouth.
He got signed right away. I don't know if you had the opportunity to go to XFL games last year. I did. Watching those kickoffs was actually really exciting. I think that change is a really good one. That now you need the guy like a Cordell Patterson, a Kavontae Turpin, someone like that can read the hole and hit it to 6th gear just like that. That's what I like about it. The fact that now kickers, if they kick the ball into the end zone, the ball goes to the 35-yard line. I think that's beautiful. Make the kicker kick it to the player now. But the only thing that it does eliminate the surprise onside kick, but honestly, who cares? That thing has only been successful twice since the Super Bowl. It was a dead play, so it doesn't matter that they got rid of that.
And Brian Bostic is like, that's right.
The drop tackle one is one I'm not a fan of, but the good thing about that one is, while yes, it's going to be more fines, suspensions, and there are going to be penalties in the game because, as we know, plays get reviewed all the time after the game is finalized, and that's when fines come. So it's not going to be one that we're going to see a lot in game, but we're going to see a lot more fines for this player, 25,000, whatever the case may be.
And all I continue to ask, whether it be the NBA, whether it be MLB, whether it be whatever we're watching, but especially the NFL, I understand that they are taking a lot of measures to make this game safer for the new generation to play, and I'm all for longevity because you only get one of these. But my bottom line with this is, referees, for the love, please just be consistent.
Well, that's the good thing about the other rule changes. With the biggest ones we've seen have been roughing the passer, late hit out of bounds. Those are now reviewable plays.
Good.
And not only that.
Time.
And they're not only reviewable, they're plays where, because let's be real, the challenges, for example, when a coach throws a challenge, it's because of the failure of the referee. He didn't do his job correctly.
Correct.
Now with the box being able to come in and say, hey, that was not a roughing the passer play. That was not a late hit out of bounds. I love that has gone into effect as well. The drop tackle, I mean, yeah, I'm going to sit here and say I'm happy about it because I saw what happened in the playoffs with Tony Pollard and how that changed.
That was nasty. That was nasty.
I mean, but in all honesty, when you see these guys throwing their body on top of a guy's leg, that's a little excessive, you know. So yes, it is all about safety. But
yeah, and you know that's
Henry now.
well, you know that started with the whole Mark Andrews injury.
That wasn't a drop tackle. That wasn't a drop tackle. That's the thing.
I know that wasn't a drop tackle, but that's what they called it. And I'm like, but they've been doing this forever. Like, this ain't something new. This ain't the first time you've seen it. But I guess because it's
sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no worry. I guess we got you. So I guess because it's happening quite more frequently. I think because it's happening more frequently, that's why they're doing it. So, you know, all in all, it is what it is.
All right, fellas, I had a great time. We are at that hour. For Chris and
Thank
for
you.
Mike Zappy, happy baseball season. Baseball is back, folks. NBA, NHL playoffs on the way. We see you soon. Announcements to come. Have a great night, everyone.
It's officially over.
Good night, fellas.